I had a theory that Hollywood was moving away from hard reboots. But how wrong am I? Welcome to the Tach Impulse podcast, part of the scitrek family.
Our tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.
So, the reason why I genuinely thought Hollywood was doing this, not just because I speak to several people in the industry and they were sort of telling me that lots of people in Hollywood had come to the realisation that, generally speaking, hard reboots don't work. And that particularly in television, for really beloved franchises, they were a terrible idea. We have been following the Stargate roller coaster for over 3 years. And the entire time, we were being told by insiders and people actually directly from MGM that they were looking to do some sort of continuation. That they really did not want to hard reboot Stargate SG-1. Now it looks like they've actually changed their minds on that, but we won't talk about that just yet because that's in previous videos. We also got to hear about lots of plans back during the strikes about potential ideas of rebooting things like Space Above and Beyond, Knight Rider, Firefly, and none of these things have actually come to fruition. Battlestar Galactica TV reboot and movie have both been cancelled. It did look like, again, they'd learned their lesson. Now, Firefly still may happen. I'm hoping it does. Lots of ducks need to get in a row for that to happen, but it's possible. I'm hoping Stargate will. I'm hoping Knight Rider will, even though the rumours I've heard again would be that it would be a continuation. A little bit in the vein of what they sort of tried to do with Quantum Leap. Again, another reason why you start to think maybe Hollywood has learned its lesson. Amazon recently ordered Captives War series instead of continuing The Expanse, even though it's from the creators S.A. Corey. It does feel like there is a little bit of hesitation about these big, expensive projects. Now, we've heard several times that budgets throughout TV and movie are being cut by anything up to 30%, as streaming providers in particular realise that they have massively overspent over the last 10 to 15 years. So, does that mean that they will revert back to the hard reboot? Well, in movies, it looks like there's a mixed bag here. One way of looking at it is that they don't really seem to like doing straight up reboots or hard reboots. Things like the live action version of animated movies, which is something Disney love to do a lot. They're doing a live action version of Lilo and Stitch. They're doing a live action version of How to Train Your Dragon, which is actually something I'm quite excited to see because that was an animated movie I really, really liked. We're getting a new version of Snow White, but we are also getting just straight up reimaginings of things. We're getting, obviously, the new Superman. We're getting new Fantastic Four. We're actually getting a new werewolf movie in Wolfman. We're getting 2 Frankenstein movies this year, one Frankenstein and one Bride of Frankenstein. And we are still getting straight up hard reboots. We're getting The Running Man, which is a remake. We're getting He-Man next year. We're getting Highlander next year. So, if you look at it, it doesn't look like Hollywood has learned its lesson, and never will. It does feel like they can't really come up with anything that new. Now, why do they do hard reboots? It's not difficult. It's basically a built-in audience. People get excited about it. A Highlander reboot is actually a reboot I actually 100% agree with. It's one of those movies that you think, yeah, I could see them doing a modern version of that with modern special effects, etc., and it working if they handle things like the Queen music properly. I think that's a risk. They could try to throw a lot of Queen music in there like the original, and it might not work in sort of a modern movie. It was a very 80s thing. Or they go the other way and don't put any Queen music in it at all, and the fans will go, wait, it's quintessential Highlander Queen. You've got to have a bit. So how they handle things like that is going to be important. He-Man, I'm hearing, is going to be sort of a tongue-in-cheek movie. Now, I think they've cast it brilliantly. Idris Elba's in this. Adria is in this. Marina Baccarin. And to be honest, the name's going on. I think they really have cast it well. But I know somebody that is actually working on the project and has seen the script, and he says it feels a bit tongue-in-cheek. It feels almost a bit of a comedy in places. That it's not just a straight-up He-Man movie. That they know that some of the things in this are maybe a little silly and they're playing into them. Now, I would say, do it as a fantasy movie. Do it as a serious fantasy movie. That's the way it would work for me. But that doesn't seem to be what they're doing. A mistake they've made several times before in Hollywood. A film like this reminds me of Thunderbirds all those years ago, directed by Jonathan Frakes. And they made it into a very tongue-in-cheek, silly movie in places, and it failed. How do you ruin a Thunderbirds movie? For God's sake, just do it seriously. Just do it as a Thunderbirds film. But no, they had this one scene where Brains has a implant in the back of his head and he starts walking around like this, like a puppet. I'm just like, oh, for God's sake. Now, for Highlander, obviously, the choices that the director makes and the way it's edited, etc., is going to be a massive influence on the movie and will make or break it. Because you can have little moments, little Easter eggs and things, or little bits of humour that remind you of the original project. Done well is perfect. But 9 times out of 10, it's not done well. And just comes across as silly. I'm quite concerned about the Fantastic Four reimagining. It doesn't look right, but we'll give it a chance. I am excited about several of these other projects. I'm not excited about Superman. I don't know what they're doing with that, but again, if it's done well, it'll be perfect. But if they've overdone it, which it looks like they have, it's going to be awful. It feels like in television, there is a hesitation about doing hard reboots. That instead, they try to do continuations. Particularly when something has had a life like Stargate SG-1. 17 seasons of television. Hundreds and hundreds of hours of television. It does seem that they have enough sense that perhaps a hard reboot isn't a good idea and does turn fans off. The evidence shows that every time they try to do that, other than really Battlestar Galactica, it fails. But in movies, they don't seem to have learned the lesson. They realise that it creates excitement when there is a hard reboot, that you've got a ready-made audience, and getting bums in seats is the hardest thing. People will always say, do something new, do something new. Hollywood does new things all the time, but getting people to then watch them isn't that easy. You either need to have a big actor in it, or you need to have some sort of drama building up to the show, or you need to get lucky. A lot of the time, doing something that's a hard reboot or a continuation of something that's come before is just easier. And I think Hollywood will always go the easy route where it can. We get new things all the time, but we don't maybe give them enough of our attention. And if we did, maybe Hollywood would finally learn its lesson and just do new things instead. But until we actually start watching these things and giving shows a chance, Hollywood are going to continue doing the hard reboot. And it's a little frustrating. But we get He-Man and Highlander, and I'm excited about both. So, fingers crossed. Guys, so get into the comments to what you think. Is there a nice balance, basically, in Hollywood between the hard reboots, the continuations, and new stuff? Sometimes we ignore the new stuff because we don't watch it, but it is out there. Or actually, is the hard reboot the continuation, the live action remake of animated movies just swamping our screens? And, it's lazy. Get into the comments and tell me exactly what you think. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. It really helps us out, and you'll never miss any of our new videos. Also, you can go to patreon.com/scitrek, where most of our new videos do premiere first, and you get to see them without the adverts. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.